Jacob here from That Time We Woke Up in a Podcast and Had to Explain Manga, our heated adventures over analyzing manga we find interesting, otherwise known as the Over Manga Cast. Say, have you ever wondered what it would be like if the plot didn't start until Volume 2, and the genre changed no less than 3 times? Well, we explored all of that and somehow even more as we read Oshi No Ko by Aka Akasaka and Yokoyari Mengo, chapters 1 through 20. Now, let's engage in a hopefully healthy parasocial bond, and may you enjoy the show.
Hello everyone, and welcome once again to the Over Manga Cast. My name is Sam, and as always, here at the top of the show, we talk about what our familiarity with the franchise that we read this week is. Never heard of it. There you go. That's all I got for you. Matt, how about you?
Yeah, so Oshi No Ko is something that we got lovingly recommended to us by a listener of the podcast. So Sam, really offensive, you didn't even recognize the name, but that's whatever.
I'm not in charge of our socials.
You're not in charge of anything, and you know it.
I'm in charge of the editing, so...
No, that's editing Sam in the future, not you.
Yeah, see, performing Sam is a separate entity. Okay, so Oshi No Ko, I was vaguely familiar with. The names come up a lot. I've heard good things. We got lovingly recommended to us by a listener of the show. I had started reading it a little bit before, and I'm going to be honest, I stopped because I didn't realize how quickly this thing switches genres, and I thought I wasn't into it. But yeah, so this is my second time attempting to read it, and I got twice as far.
All right, and Jacob.
Also, have not heard of this. We've been meaning to do this listener request for a while, so was aware of the title for some amount of time, but...
Yeah, blame Halloween for being spooky, and no read for November for not allowing us to read.
That's what happens when you have 2 specialty months in a row. But hey, we're getting to it now.
Yes, and what a start we get to, because, well, we open up with a flash forward of two stars going on to some sort of performance, with the thesis question of the story being asked, which is, what if you were born the child of a celebrity with all of the perks and benefits and connections right off the bat?
And the immediate thought is, boy, this is either going to explain how shitty showbiz is, or this is going to be a bunch of wish fulfillment schlock. Depending on how well it's executed, I am okay with either one.
Yeah, somehow it ends up being kind of both.
This manga is weird, in a good way, mind you, but it's very weird.
We open up with Protag-kun, the unnamed doctor, who is in OBGYN, and introduced slacking off of work, watching idle videos in a patient's room.
No, it's his medical opinion that bringing joy to his patients is good for their health.
Yeah, okay, sure. Did find it pretty funny that we never get the doctor's actual name.
He's an isekai protagonist.
He doesn't need one.
I would say he exists to be projected upon, but kind of not. I mean,
we can talk about this afterwards, but I got some theories on this.
We do open up with the doc watching some videos of his favorite Ai Hoshino, and then being crushed by the news that she's going on hiatus because of health concerns.
He proceeds to be particularly overdramatic about it. This pretends it's a comedy for a while, and it kind of is. It's also kind of not, but we'll get to that.
I mean, it's by the same guy that did Kaguya-sama Love is War, so I'm not surprised. You know what? I am surprised by how well it treads the line.
Yeah.
I'll say that. The doc has a brief flashback explaining why he's so invested in this particular idol. It's because she was the favorite idol of a patient he lost to a disease several years ago. Serena was infatuated with this person because, she had been born sickly and not able to do basically anything. And so she saw the glamorous and energetic life of an idol as something great to aspire to.
I will say, I like this scene for establishing the doctor's character. I do kind of wish that he just actively refuted the whole, but if she asked you out, would you say yes? It's a funny joke as it is, but considering how serious the character will ultimately become, I do kind of wish that they'd sort of established that they didn't go for the "that's weird" joke that is very prevalent in the one thing that I find like the most perplexing about this entire series is I can't tell if it hates idols or not. I can't tell if it hates the idol industry or not.
Very honest about the idol industry is the problem. Like,
Yeah.
it's as honest as a fan can be.
I mean, like, one of the big things about the idol industry and the reason why it gets so concerning, which the series delves very directly into, is the fact that it actively tries to foster the worst kind of parasocial bond. Like, it endeavors specifically to do that. And the simple fact of the matter is the person you're forming parasocial bond with is, strictly speaking, supposed to be that real person that actually exists. The series doesn't shy away from that element and is very, very critical of that aspect. And at the same time, it's also it points out why it has its appeal and the sort of emotional positive responses that it can have to it. But the series seems really, really cynical at times. That kind of makes me wonder how the manga is going to end.
It was strange because, the doc does go on this whole big tangent of, no, I support this idol for only the most noble of reasons. And his weirdly combative assistant is...
Yeah, that was my takeaway of the scene, too, is not the doc's a creep. It's his assistant literally has no faith in him for some reason.
Is super judgy of him.
Yeah. So you're saying that you're totally into this idol for noble reasons, right? Yes, that is exactly what I just said. But if she asks you out, would you say no? What a weird question. I knew it, pedo. Shut up.
Yeah, except that last part got cut off. I kind of wish that last part was in the manga, especially considering how he plays into the story ultimately.
It's brought about in a weird way because, well, this manga brings about a lot of its emotional points in a weird way. Because, as mentioned before, our main character is an OBGYN, and he gets a new patient, a young girl of 16 who is showing signs of being pregnant. And her guardian is like, are you sure? Can it be literally anything else? No, if it was literally anything else, she'd be dead.
It's not a case of extreme constipation.
And over the course of this examination, it reveals, holy crap, it's his favorite idol, Ai Hoshino, with twins. The doc is entirely cool about this. He's just like, holy crap, my favorite idol is here. And for very concerning reasons, I know exactly what I have to do. I have to be the best, most ethical doctor I can and make sure this pregnancy is entirely healthy and painless for her. It is the only proper thing to do, and he just sticks to it. And you know what? Bravo.
Very professional the entire time. There's even a fun scene where Ai is talking about, like, I've gotten myself into a predicament, haven't I? As kind of on purpose, and I'm not going to apologize for that. What do you think I should do, Doc? And he has a bit of an internal monologue where he's like, well, as an idol fan, I don't like that you're in this situation. But then out loud, he says, you're an expecting mother. This is your choice to make. Keeping the twins is going to make your life extremely difficult. But if that's what you want to do and you're prepared for it, then that's what you should do.
Okay, that's what I'm gonna do then.
Yeah, there's sort of a sense of that she's asking the opinion of someone else, but she's kind of already made up her mind, which is a pretty standard thing for Ai.
She's extremely self-assured about this. That doesn't make the affirmation of someone else unwelcome.
Yeah, or even, valid points of refutation brought up, but when the doc mentions all the things that she had already basically been mentally and emotionally prepped for,
she's like, okay, cool. I actually did have a grasp of it. Let's keep going then.
Her poor long-suffering manager just kind of gives up at that point.
Well, she's got a great scene too because she's like introduced with like he sees the man and he's like, I'm going to assume you're the father, and he goes, well, yeah, on paper only, but she's actually orphan, and I'm just like, oh, that's what he meant by father. I completely misunderstood this scene.
I missed that too. And honestly, I think that was on purpose because I think the doc was asking, are you the father of the unborn children? And the manager like misread. I think that's on purpose because the scene does take a bit of a swerve there. And there's actually a lot of places where it'll do this with tone and genre on occasion, but this manga will just take hard left turns out of nowhere and just kind of expect you to keep up. I think for the most part it ends up working and kind of gives the series a bit of a engaging breakneck pace.
Yeah. Breakneck is definitely the best way to describe this manga, because we go through this entire like opening chapter of character establishment. Okay, here's what the character's about. Okay, here's a new complication, and you're like, okay, this complication is going to be the story. This is going to be, you know, the story of how this idol otaku helps his idol through a difficult portion in her life and, you know, learns a valuable lesson or whatever. And then you're like, wait a minute, we've covered all 40 weeks, or we've covered the back 20 weeks of this pregnancy in like a page.
In a montage page, yeah.
And then there's several panels of Ai where she's, you know, being framed as all peppy and, you know, she's very ready to go and gung-ho about this. And I'm like, oh, I've never seen a girl more dead in my entire life. And then the manga's like, ha, you idiot, you fool, you absolute buffoon. She's not going to die. The doctor is.
It's interesting. A dude in a hoodie walks up to him, and then like a panel fully filled in black pages, then cuts to him slumped up against a wall, bleeding out.
Can I just say that man in the hoodie is the world's best assassin because he just walks up to people, stabs them with an instant death knife.
Yeah.
Well, I guess in this specific instance, it's an instant death knife. In another instance, it's a long, drawn-out monologue knife, but whatever.
It's crazy because this guy walks up to the doctor, and like very explicitly, this hospital is a kind of small one in the middle of rural Japan. You know, the doctor's walking home alone in a dark mountain road.
He had complained about how far he was away from the city, so he had never seen Ai live.
Also, the reason I came out here was because she is a celebrity dealing with a pregnancy. She doesn't want to be public because we do get a little scene revealing an idol who started dating a comedian, and the comments online were that she should basically like quit is the nicest of them.
Yeah, there were other options given the kind of disgusting dreck you expect from the internet.
But it's crazy. Like, this guy walks up to the doctor and is like, are you Ai Hoshino's doctor? And he's like, she usually uses an alias. How did you know she was here? And it's like, doc, that's not how patient confidentiality works. You don't get to go, how did you know? Because she uses an alias.
Yeah, I wasn't too keen on how easily he gave up that information either. It's almost like he's bragging about it to this random guy.
But anyway, Hoodie Man murders the doctor, who is just dead on the stones, on the very night that Ai is giving birth.
I'm under the theory that the doctor is secretly a robot, and instead of a knife, he just had a paperclip and hit the little reset button on the inside. But luck on the night that Ai is giving birth, her doctor was taking a midnight walk, which OBGYN should be on call if she's in labor, but
well, he explicitly was like she was like, I'll call you if anything comes up, and he's like, all right, I'll be ready. but
clearly not. He was dead.
Yeah.
But we did get a little bit of a teaser earlier in not subtle at all. Two characters in the waiting room were just talking about isekais.
Yep.
They were just talking about, hey, wouldn't it be interesting if the plot of the manga were background characters then happened? Like,
because lo and behold, what ends up happening is the doctor is isekai'd into the child of his favorite author, which, oh man, does that bring up a whole can of worms about when does consciousness begin? Or did the doctor kill one of her children to inhabit its brain.
Yeah, the manga doesn't really get into any of that.
Yeah. You know what? I'm glad the manga doesn't get into that part of it. This is already... The reincarnation rules already don't make sense. Okay? Because...
Look, Sam, not every isekai can be ascendants of a bookworm. I just have to accept that.
Yeah, you are right about that. But, like, okay, the doctor died on the night that I gave birth, and his soul was instantly reincarnated into one of her twins. Okay, in terms of, like, supernatural bullshittery, I can accept that one. What gets me is that the other twin, the little girl, is Serena, the girl who died like 4 years ago.
Yeah, like, I'm also not 100% sure because the manga makes a game about, like, who is she? Is she wealthy? And then at the end of the chapter reveals it and then still treats it like it's a surprise twist.
Like it's a mystery, yeah.
They keep going into her perspective and she's flashing back to her previous life, so the audience knows full well who she is.
Yeah, they really like having their cake and eating it too with that plotline.
There's a lot of that in this manga, both from a metacontextual sense and characters in the actual story.
But yeah, as we did establish, she gave birth to healthy twins. We then skip ahead like 6 months, probably. They're sitting up and walking on their own, so yeah, about maybe 6 months.
Around that.
It's really young, but they do. I don't think this manga understands how babies work. I'm gonna say that right now.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
Because
They might be a year, actually. No, they can't be because she turns 20.
No.
This is a matter of months later.
Yeah, a matter of months later. Well, we have extended baby shenanigans for a while. And in this particular chapter, we get established what seems to be the status quo of the manga, which is Ai has to continue to live her idle life while pretending to not be the mother of these children. And so, for all intents and purposes, they are the kids of the company president and his wife. And so we have a chapter of shenanigans where the wife is like, man, why? I just wanted to marry an industry guy for money. Why am I getting wrapped up in this bullshit of caring for babies? and the babies with their perfect recall of their past lives and their perfect mental faculties,
which is not how human baby brains work.
Yeah.
Magic.
They use the fact that they can talk to pretend to be messengers of the gods to terrify her into keeping their secret. I love that chapter. It's hilarious.
My favorite thing is how they get her on their side in the end is they offer that in the future she will be blessed by the gods to marry a hot actor. And I'm like, wow, just assuming the producer relationship is not going to work out in the long term. That is some showbiz nonsense right there.
Yep. And once again, the manga has the opportunity to be weird and creepy because it's like, hey, these two otaku reborn as babies. What do babies do? That's right, they nurse from the mother. The doc, who is now named Aquamarine, henceforth to be known as Aqua because that's a stupid name.
And never let teenagers name
babies.
Yeah.
Maybe
but
just full stop here. Maybe teenagers shouldn't be having babies.
That too. But Aqua categorically refuses to be breastfed. He will only drink from a bottle because his adult mind is like, no, that's weird. Meanwhile,
which it could, like, the manga could have just stopped there and it would have been fine, but they don't do that.
And then it's like, oh, his sister only wants to be breastfed. It's like, god damn it, manga.
And then they made it weird.
Yeah, yes, his sister Ruby, also known as Serena, but not actually in the manga.
The manga decides to go down the weird rabbit hole of the villain in this is the doctor, right? because even him drinking from the bottle, it's weird that he would even think about breastfeeding. And I'm like, but no, he's not. But everyone just beats down on him for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially because where his character goes to, I kind of wish that the manga wasn't so mean to him about that sort of thing, because I honestly think he's a really compelling character, and the character is made stronger by him not being a creep. You know,
Yes.
it makes his ultimate determination for things that happen later, because we've barely even started. We've not even gotten to the plot yet, because this is all still just set up.
We're on chapter 2. It's not super important for our discussion, but I do want to bring up. Ai has Nia eyes from Gurren Lagann. They're like starbursts. And so the kids also have to have them, but so they are visually distinct. Aqua has the starburst in his right eye, and Ruby has the starburst in her left eye. But that also means they have one normal eye, and it's really uncanny.
Well, because they have to have their father's eyes.
But no, they're explicitly their mother's. Oh, you're talking about the
No,
eyes.
the starburst are their mother's eyes, but they also have their father's eyes. Because heterochromia is what you do when you have no good ideas for character design.
Damn. You're right, though.
That's really harsh, but I'm not gonna disagree with you.
Various baby-based shenanigans. We have a chapter where Aqua gets roped into some child acting.
I think an important bit to point out we can cover briefly, because it's technically still part of the baby shenanigans, but something that had been mentioned in passing but is focused on in a particular chapter is the idea that like the whole point of being an idol is lying. Lies is a positive, a really central element, and like again, it's like there's the baby shenanigans, and when Ai sees her kids going full idol otaku for her in the crowd, because they coerced their babysitter into taking them to the concert. She gives a genuine smile, and it like significantly boosts her popularity. So it's like, is this going to be the plot of the manga? Is it going to be about like Ai like genuinely reaching her true emotions?
Ai's response to seeing her genuine smile is like mental photo and being like, yep, no, I've got that expression down on lock. Now I can fake it genuinely. And I'm like, okay, Ai, good job.
Yeah, and like that's the thing that the manga keeps doing. It keeps setting up like, okay, so this is where the plot is going, and then they don't do that, and then it takes a left turn out of nowhere, and yet it somehow all still tracks. This is when we get like a couple of years have passed, and now the twins can be walking and talking without, well, overtly suspicious.
I was about to say they're 3-year-olds. It's very suspicious the level they walk and talk.
Yeah,
especially Aqua, because
he's not good at hiding his vocabulary.
He is a college-educated adult talking as such in a 3-year-old form.
But I want to say, Aqua for some reason decided to double down on his vernacular, because Dr. Aqua had very good patient bedside manner and was just kind of casual to talk to. He decided, now that I've been reincarnated, I'm only gonna break character.
And since he's only breaking character, that just establishes a new character.
Well, that is sort of the thing. That is sort of the thing, because I do think he's just sort of like the sort of like done. Like when we saw him as a doctor, there was a sort of like, I'm just kind of done. Like I've found a place where I'm comfortable. Like all my bills are paid. I don't care anymore. I'm not going to put effort into things. You know, and there's sort of a like, once he gets like comfortable with the whole fact that he got reincarnated and has all of the memories of his past life, he just sort of stops caring. Which, you know, it's like, that is like a consistent character through line for him. It's also kind of fun that he has the excuse of someone asks him, where did you learn all those words? YouTube. Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of like social media and internet culture in this. Like I really enjoyed Ruby posting on Twitter to insult.
She does that a lot.
To the point where the phone is autocorrecting everything to die.
The word die capitalized, or the word die in all caps.
But anyway, what has brought us to scene is Ai has broken out. Her career's really gone well since she learned how to smile convincingly, and she has been offered a role to break into acting, whereas previously she'd just done some modeling. And so, did it say she was an assistant at a radio station?
Yes.
I didn't understand why a celebrity would want that job.
I think that might be like a translation thing, and from the looks of it, it looks like she guest starred on a morning drive shift or something like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Because that had the look of every we've got a special guest on the morning drive show I've ever been a part of.
But anyway, this is her first big break into film. She's been offered a role in this movie, and as such, the kids are brought along, and I'm not actually sure why.
So what ends up happening is the first part that she gets is just a background character. They almost entirely cut her even from the background, and this is where we start getting into the, like, there is no art in the entertainment industry, it's all about making money theming starting to crop up. One of the more, like, persistent and deftly handled elements of this manga, your creativity and craft doesn't matter if you don't sell. Ruby in particular, but both of the kids are particularly peeved by this, so they because Aqua had had a brief conversation with the director, they basically convince him to give Ai another role. The condition is that the kids be there too.
Well, specifically Aqua, because Aqua had utilized his great vocabulary, and the director's like, "You're some sort of weird prodigy kid. You'll be great on camera."
Then turns out the role he wanted him for was creepy child at
Yeah.
like Haunted Village. I'm not quite sure what the plot of this movie is. It's about a woman who feels self-conscious, so she goes to get like discount plastic surgery, but
It's a horror movie where lady goes to a horror place and there are creepy children there. And it's like, why doesn't the protagonist turn around? Because it's a horror movie. And we have this interesting moment where Aqua like psychoanalyzes the director, where it's like, I could actually try acting, but that's not what he wants. He brought me into this because I'm a weird, creepy kid. So I'm just going to act like myself. And it, in fact, does make him a weird, creepy kid, and he steals the show, much to the displeasure of the other child actor and prominent character, Kana. I like Kana. She's great.
Kana is super well introduced because the way that we're introduced to her is we basically get 3 introductions to this character. The first introduction is I'm pretty sure all of the chapters have like a little in medias res, like way further in the timeline interview with someone, like, you know, recalling the events of the manga that we're seeing.
Yeah.
And we meet her in one of those first. And she is like an older teenager, maybe even older than that. And she's very overtly very humble. And then we meet her here, and not only do we see very directly from her, like the way that she interacts with other people, how condescending and disrespectful she is. She's extremely arrogant. And then, like, near the end of this little plot point, the director is talking to Aqua and says out loud, if she keeps up that attitude, she's going to push away all the connections. That, you know, it doesn't matter how good she is, if nobody's willing to hire her because nobody wants to work with her and her ego, then, you know, she's not going to go anywhere. You, on the other hand, understood exactly what I wanted without me having to say anything out loud. That means that you're, you know, you have potential to, you know, go far in this industry, setting up a contrast between the two of them.
And thus spawning the one-sided rivalry that will be the rest of their character interactions.
Despite Aqua doing really well in his role as the creepy kid, Ai does in fact end up being the one to steal the show. So she, like, her, you know, career, you know, continues its rise.
Indeed, and it seems like everything is going super well for Ai. That she's continuing to advance her career. The kids are growing up well. I mean, they go to preschool, and they have some minor character drama where Ruby has a bad reaction to saying, "Hey, we're gonna have a cute little dance recital for the entire class," and she's like, "No, in my past life, I was basically an invalid and couldn't move my body at all, and so I
tried to dance, but my body wouldn't move the way I wanted it to." And when she actually tries it out, like when she gets the confidence to do it, I gotta say, the art in this manga is consistently good, but there's just some cases where it gets absolutely amazing. I freaking love the page where she finally is able to do one of Ai's dances, one that she had tried in her previous life so many times and wasn't able to. Like it's a really well done thing, which is something I couldn't help but notice. There does seem to be this strange but very obviously intentional separation where there's almost like 2.5 mangas going on where you have the story that Aqua is going through. We'll get to what his ultimate motivation is going to be in a bit because we still haven't started the plot yet, by the way. So you have his plot line, then you have Ruby's plot line, which is almost a slightly darker than average, but otherwise an idol like manga story. Played almost straight, which is where a lot of the positive representation of idol culture comes from. And then there's this sort of like intersection between the two where they weirdly mesh well together, despite the fact that they frankly, it doesn't seem like they should, because this is the first time we have something where like Ruby's, like it seems like Ruby's suddenly like the main character, and she'll just get chunks where, she's the one kind of in the lead.
This is where it's most explicit that she is in fact Serena's reincarnation.
Well, we flash back to Serena trying the dance moves and falling because her body can't handle it.
But yeah, it's very cute and heartwarming how Ai finds her practicing the dance, and the two of them have a cute mother-daughter moment of practicing the dance together, which is why the immediate next chapter being framing device interview, finding the president of the company and talking about how the second he lost as soon as he lost Ai, his life was over too. And I'm like, okay, what's gonna happen? Oh no, the next 2 chapters are just her name. Oh, that can't be good.
Yeah, so the plot's about to start. If you haven't done the reading, dear listener, you're not gonna guess where this is going, which is funny because as soon as it happened, I'm like, oh yeah, this was very heavily foreshadowed. I should have noticed that.
It makes perfect sense when you think about it, but leading up to it.
We start off with flashbacks to Ai's past. One thing that I think is kind of an interesting talking point, I'm curious of what you guys think. How much of what Ai told her manager in that flashback do you think was a lie? Because she says, like, I said things to get him to leave me alone. I believe she's an orphan, but I kind of wonder how much she made up and like made the sob story worse.
The problem is what the director says like immediately upon hearing that sob story is like, oh yeah, that's actually that's actually perfect for being an idol. In fact, it's actually kind of interesting. It's a good hook because you're saying you don't know how to feel love. Great. Idols really shouldn't, because they have to tell people they love them so much repeatedly, it loses all meaning. It doesn't have any meaning for you already, so halfway there. What she told him was the perfect backstory for being an idol.
Yeah.
There's also a particularly great panel where it's framed as this sort of like heartwarming epiphany, and the lines of dialogue she says is, "It's okay if I'm lying when I say I love you."
Yeah, it's that, like, upward shot of character kind of like wide-eyed and lots of negative space, so you have to focus on their face, and it looks like it's supposed to be that moment where the character says something life-affirming that gives a shonen power-up or whatever. But no, it's okay if I'm lying when I say I love you, and it's like, okay, manga, I get what you're going for. I don't get what it's going for. Not yet.
Well, by the end of this little plot point,
Of a much better idea.
that's again sort of like that element of like the cynicism of show business. This is all intercut with as Ai's star is rising, the kids are starting to like play with the idea of putting a foot in the showbiz door. She contacts their father. She wants him to meet them at least once.
A very casual conversation too. Like she's just like, yeah, no, yeah, I know. I'm sure they're smart kids. They'll understand.
This isn't an invitation to get back together. I just think that the kids should meet their father at least once. And I'm just sitting here going, you understand why this is the worst decision you could possibly make, right? And the best part is, yes, she does know that. She's doing it anyway. And that...
Because that's Ai in a nutshell. She doesn't care.
It's infuriating, but it's understandable. And that's what made me keep reading. But we have this very compelling bit where, after the backstory recap and, expansion upon that, thinking all about how, idols are built on lies, and maybe if I say the lie long enough, it will become true, and talking about how she's never told the kids, the twins, that she loves them because she's worried that it will be a lie, and voicing the lie will shatter the illusion. She answers the doorbell to Hoodie Man carrying a bouquet. He pulls out a knife and stabs her. Final page of this chapter. Full panel. Just knife in gut. Like
the entire next chapter is the dramatic death monologue. I joke, really... but it's very well done.
No, they straight up dedicated an entire chapter to this woman dying and telling her children goodbye.
One of them is locked behind a glass door that she slumped against, and the other is her son being held in her arms as she dies.
Yeah.
There's also a nice bit where, because Aqua was a doctor in his past life,
he's desperately trying to diagnose the stab wound.
Yeah.
And figure out if he can save it, and he's like, oh no, he got you in an artery. I gotta call an ambulance. It shouldn't be breezed over. Hoodie Man, the stalker, goes on this incel rage rant about how she's this fan betrayer, she's a slut, she's a whore, she had kids. Like, it's 3 pages of this hideous, toxic drivel, and I responds to it in perhaps the most gracious way possible. Basically just in a page saying everything said in the last chapter of, I hoped that my lying about saying that I loved them would become true one day, and I'm sorry about that.
Obviously, he doesn't believe her at first. You don't even remember who I am. Like, they don't state outright, but given his reaction, she actually is able to remember him as a particularly dedicated fan of hers.
Who showed up at a lot of events. Yeah.
Yeah, and more importantly than that, she remembers his name, remembers him showing up to a bunch of handshake events, and then proceeds to say, I really loved the star-shaped sand you gave me at that one event. It's still sitting over there in the living room.
Uh-huh. And this just shatters him, and he runs away screaming to, as we later learn via news broadcast, go commit die off screen.
There's an element of us joking about the fact that we have an entire chapter of a dramatic death monologue. It's worth noting, it's very well done.
It's an entire chapter of just this woman dying and apologizing to people, and it's the entire time you're like, the entire time you're like, the ambulance is going to show up any second. We've spent so much time establishing this character and her relationship with these kids, and this is the plot, isn't it? It's the plot of them growing as people, and then she tells the kids that she loves them and cries as she realizes that when she says it aloud, she means it, and then she dies.
Oh, and we get a full 2-page spread of her lifeless body. This manga just runs up to you and stabs you right in the gut with the feels.
Too soon, Matt.
He's not wrong, though.
And then, just to twist the knife a little more, the framing device interview that starts the next chapter is a recording of Ai with the twins as tiny babies, delivering this very positive motherly monologue.
I can't wait until they're grown up too, and we can share stories of of what we've done with our lives. Hey, we're gonna keep twisting that knife because the next thing we cut to is Twitter, and that goes how you expected.
Yeah.
You got the people who are, reacting like a, empathetic human being. And then you've got the rage tulpa that's saying a fan probably found out she'd gotten with a guy. She deserved it. Yeah. And I think it's a big moment of character development when Ruby doesn't immediately start responding to people on Twitter because she just has this soul-crushing, dead-eyed look at that.
And, just to be entirely clear, if you're the kind of person that responds to news of someone's death like that, you're a bad person.
You're a bad person. You are a terrible little goblin, and you need to rethink everything in your life. It's very real and painful for it. The other very real and very painful thing is then a snowstorm happens and nobody mentions her again. Ouch. Mm-hmm. That's a little too real.
One natural disaster takes over the news cycle, and nobody's talking about Ai's death anymore.
Because unfortunately, it was wrapped up really nicely. Like, it's a tragedy. It happened. The guy who did it, because her son gave like a perfect eyewitness of the man, they knew who he was. They found out he killed himself. Unfortunately, that's the entire story right there. They're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Anything about maybe we shouldn't incentivize people to grow these kind of attachments when they don't promote healthy life behavior. Because again, this manga isn't really a fan of the idol industry, or maybe it is. Who knows?
Yeah.
This one entirely isolated incident is now an open and shut case and is not connected to anything that has ever happened before or will ever happen again. Stop thinking about it. We stop making money when you keep thinking about it.
My thoughts and prayers go out to Ai's children.
Nobody even knows that they're her children.
Thoughts and prayers, Sam.
Honestly, I think, Matt, you hit it on the head when you mentioned that it's a very honest look at the idol industry, because, like, the problem with the idol industry is that it actively tries to foster that exact kind of toxic parasocial bond.
And every time a negative conclusion comes from that, it's like, what a tragedy that happened. Well, let's move on.
No, you need to change the way things are so this doesn't happen again.
Jacob, we are. Thoughts and prayers. Let's move on.
The fact that you're absolutely correct is the thing that's the most depressing about all of that. Which, I mean, and for all of the grumbling there, that is an excellent illustration of how good this manga is, because it conveys that so painfully well.
Turns out the two young children, even though they are isekai'd into those bodies, don't handle the death of their mother very well. They go down separate routes as Aqua having witnessed it, having felt his mother die in his arms. He goes through some therapy. It doesn't seem like it helps much.
Well, actually, he doesn't go through therapy. He goes through a interrogation.
Oh, counseling.
Granted, an interrogation.
Also counseling.
Well, okay.
There's victim counseling after the interrogation.
But yeah, one of the one of the best scenes in our reading happens where it is honestly painfully real, where Aqua just hits a despair event horizon. He's like, I've already died once. I don't really have anything else to live for. And it's like, oh, that is a terrible thing to hear a character. And like, it's so well justified by everything that's happened up to this point.
Well, because he also lost Ai, who was the only thing he was living for in his last life, which probably wasn't great either. Yeah. Because the manga really is kind of subtle about this, but I think it's pretty clear as a new doctor, he gets a little too close to Serena, and he allows her death to just completely shake him. He adopts her hobbies to like keep her alive, and it's just doesn't even seem to acknowledge that it's happened to him.
It really plays into like that character through line I mentioned of like the apathy in him. Like, he doesn't seem to care anymore. That changes because he starts thinking about it and he realizes, wait a second, the hoodie guy who killed Ai, and like the other thing that's really really well done about this is the way it's able to justify that element of he would consider killing himself at this point. They really do a good job of establishing that for all of the past life shenanigans, there really was a very deep, very close familial bond between the three of them. He's on this downward spiral, and right before he hits, right before he, crosses the point of no return, hits, rock bottom, where he, earnestly commits himself to doing this very sad, very terrible thing, he suddenly realizes, wait a second, hoodie guy who killed Ai is hoodie guy who killed my past self. It's the same person. And in both cases, he knew where I was, even though he should not have been able to.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts to put together, there's no reason that Ai's manager or his wife would ever do anything to hurt her, because their income is based off of, in large part, Ai. So that doesn't make sense. Both Ruby and I are obsessed with Ai, so I know Ruby wouldn't have done anything. The only other person who would have any knowledge on the fact that Ruby and I exist would be our father.
Mm-hmm.
He's the only one who could have told the stalker where to find her.
This manga's latest in amazing sudden genre shifts.
King murder mystery.
Yeah, like this manga leads you up into like, oh man, they're both depressed. But we get the heel face turn of Aqua going through this list and they're like, I'm gonna find the man that murdered my mom and beat him to death with my bare hands.
And he has like a fang tooth, like he's drawn with like a fang tooth, and the star in his eye is drawn all sketchy. It's a really, really good panel.
The star in his eye, and this will happen several times in the rest of our reading, it like shines out of his eye. In this one it's bright, but in the rest of the time it's black as night. It's very, very spooky.
Oh, and ladies and gentlemen, the plot has finally started. We're only halfway through our reading.
Oh, but I think that's a good point. We're halfway through. We've done the prologue. We've now got some teenage main characters. Let's take a little bit of a break and then come back into the story of Aqua and Ruby going into performance school.
It's funny how this keeps happening, isn't it?
BRB, folks.
Hey, we're back with the Over Manga Cast, where we're now reading, I guess, case closed, because it's about a teenage detective trying to solve his mom's murder?
Basically.
And someone significantly older in a child's body trying to solve a mystery.
Shit, this is just case closed.
Is Detective Conan an isekai? No, it can't be. You can't ruin Detective Conan for me.
It can't be an isekai, Matt, because you like it.
You're right. That is the definition of an isekai.
Yeah, we also get a little of Code Geass thrown in, but this is actually well written.
Oh, the eye and everything.
Yeah, they got weird eyes. They got some sort of ill-defined magic powers.
They've got female side characters that seem not as developed as they should be for their age.
And our brief time skip between the childhood of our main characters and their teenagedom with Ruby, the optimistic one, I suppose, out of the pair.
She's the least traumatized by her mother's death because she just wants to remember the good of her.
Indeed. She has decided that she is going to become an idol in her mother's honor so that she can be a bright beacon of hope for others in the same way. The president of the production company just kind of fades away into obscurity, and his estranged wife takes over both as company president and their mother, now officially because adoption.
Yeah, legal guardian.
Which was a swerve I wasn't expecting, because the chapter where we're introduced to this woman, she's extremely vapid, and then...
and very aggressively does not care about them.
Yeah, and then it's just like, I've pretended to be your mom for so long. I do think of you like my genuine children, and I'm terribly sorry for your loss. So can I adopt you so that I can take care of you? Because I feel an immense amount of responsibility. Very mature.
It feels motivated too. Like when you just say it out loud, it sounds like a post. It sounds like it's either bad or a giant joke, but it's actually motivated.
Mm-hmm.
This manga should not work as well as it does, but it does.
Somehow.
The first chapter after the time skip, or this time skip anyway, that we get into is Ruby is applying for idol jobs. I'm just gonna fast track to this to the point where Aqua is revealed to be a supervillain.
Yeah, holy shit.
The lengths this boy goes to. I'm pretty sure he committed at least 3 or 4 crimes.
My man's is so determined to protect his little sister from the horrible fate their mother suffered that he commits at least 2 different versions of impersonation by pretending to be her so he can withdraw her from the idol auditions, and then pretending to be the official from the company so that he can tell her she failed. And then stealing her phone and blocking all the relevant numbers so she can't get a call that would contradict this. It's like, my guy!
Elaborate.
After he went on a long tirade to his manager mommy about how he's not a very good actor and he's given up that part of his life, then proceeds to perfectly mimic the voice of the president to call her his twin sister, does not recognize it's him on the phone, in such a display of villainy that I would not have been surprised if his next lines were, "I did it myself so I could hear the disappointment in her voice."
That certainly is the look on his face in the panel.
He is just shy of saying that. This is where the dark star in his eye that I mentioned earlier starts appearing. I'm not entirely convinced he doesn't have a demonic aura in universe.
Then the very next chapter is her getting scouted by somebody else, so that worked well.
Because I have no choice but to accept that destiny is a very real thing in this universe and is and cannot be contested by the will of man, which I think makes me hate this manga a little, but I'm not sure. We get more supervillainy out of Aqua when he's like, I need to know more about this company that has scouted my little sister. I know. I will find another person this company has scouted and bring her back to the office under false pretenses so that I can figure out the terms of the contract she's working under. Oh,
yeah, God. It's a whole thing. And funnily enough, this is another case where it's building up to kind of an obvious conclusion, because it had been mentioned briefly a couple of times that Strawberry Productions, the company that their current mom is now running, actually don't remember her name. I know
she's producer mom.
Yeah, she's producer mom. The company she's running doesn't actually do idols anymore because they're small enough that they couldn't get enough venues.
Mm-hmm.
And after the one idol group they had, their frontliner was, killed,
murdered.
The group broke up for obvious reasons, and fair, honestly.
Well, no, they didn't break up for obvious reasons. They continued performing for 2 years after she was murdered. They just weren't famous without her. They broke up because they weren't good enough.
Well, That's also probably true.
It's equally horrific, just for different reasons.
Look, there are two rules of show business: get good, don't get murdered.
You're not wrong.
You gotta do both.
I want to say you're wrong, but you're not.
The sort of obvious like conclusion it's building to is Ruby is gonna be an idol under Strawberry Productions and start doing idols again with Ruby. And it's one of those ones where it's like, at this point the manga has conditioned you to like expect some kind of ridiculous twist. No, they actually just do that this time. Which is almost a twist unto itself. They do the obvious plot line.
Yeah, they're like, you know what? If we can't trust Ruby to any old random company, we might as well start doing idols again ourselves. Okay, sure. This'll do.
We get more of Aqua's plans and the whole Detective Conan murder mystery that he's working on. He's able to resuscitate an old broken phone that I had.
Oh my god, this.
I love the fact that he makes an entire thing about like it's so hard to find a battery for such an old phone. I'm like, guy, it's a 10-year-old phone. It's not hard to find a battery for that. You're just not trying. Like,
it's not super ancient like you're talking about.
Yeah, his whole thing is, I was a particularly private person. She didn't talk to a lot of people. The only contacts that she had in her business and personal phone were all people that Aqua had actually known. The older phone had contacts from before she like really hit it big. Given who I was regularly in contact with, he reasons that it had to be somebody in the entertainment industry as well. So he's gonna go through the contacts in that phone, starting with like any of the most connected people he can get to, and try to get a DNA sample to do a paternity test.
This is the most convoluted episode of Mori I've ever seen.
Yeah, and that's Aqua's plot for the rest of our reading. We finally reached the plot of the manga.
We have a thing where the director of the movie he was in when he was a kid, he's become that guy's disciple and is learning the entertainment biz from him. And he's always like, why don't you try acting again? No, I can't do that. I'm not a good actor. Kid, you're literally the best actor I've seen in a long time. Just do it. No, I'm an edgy dark boy.
I like the director because they do a whole thing about like, yeah, he's so edgy and he knows what the real thing of the entertainment industry is. But then he lives with his mom.
He pretends to be this big, cool auteur.
Here's the thing. He does make a lot of movies. He's presumably well connected enough in the industry to get work. Like he's working on a movie right then with Aqua's help, like doing some like side editing for that. And like, yeah, like when
he mostly does low budget stuff, but he does make movies, and he has at that point in the story been nominated multiple times for awards.
Yeah, his parents are just rich and live in the city, and he's like, I'd have to take a downgrade in living situation. I'm cool living at home with mom. Like,
even though mom keeps interrupting my wise old mentor speeches.
Well, all this is going on. We have various other it seems like shenanigans because the twins are trying to get into Yoto High, the premier high school of pretty people in the entertainment industry, is all I can guess.
It's funny how we keep bumping into these all of a sudden.
It's originally Ruby that wants to go there for their performing arts program, and it's weird the way the manga frames it, because for the longest time it's like they're one of the only high schools in Japan that has a performing arts program. And it's worded in such a way that it's like you're settling for something because it has a track you want. But then they actually go there and it's full of all of these teen celebrities and, you know, massively successful folk. And it's like, okay, Maybe I just lack the cultural context for this. This definitely feels like a thing where I'm like, there's got to be a detail here from the lived experience that I don't have.
See, Jacob, it's just like the school and lookism, where despite the fact it's for like industry people, it's also accepts people with really low grades, and that means it's worthless.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. We keep bumping into this for some reason. This is kind of... I'd have 2 nickels.
Editing the lookism episode without having read that is very interesting. He must find the balance between his Chad self and his virgin self.
Unfortunately, this manga does not devolve into a boxing manga, I guess was where we got with that, but go listen to the lookism episode if you haven't.
Yeah, it's fun. This one is also fun, just insane, because
it's fun. It's also incredibly melodramatic, yet it works somehow.
The melodrama is played for comedy? I'm not always 100% sure.
See, that's the thing. There are cases where the melodrama is played for comedy, and those are some of the funniest moments. There are also places where the melodrama is played completely straight, and honestly, those are some of my favorite parts because it actually works. I don't get it. I'm on board with it. I just don't understand.
They're at acting school. Ruby goes through her, like, you have to pass an exam to get in. But it's like such an easy exam, basically everyone gets through that round. And then there's the interview. Unless you're going to the general class. In that case, you just need scores. But the interview is where they find out, like, oh...
The score you needed was 40. Yeah, I got a 70. Why? Why are you here?
Why? Well, I want to be famous. Well, no, you're on the general track. It's like, reading this puts My Hero Academia into context, because I'm like, those nerds going to superhero school to just do regular classes. Oh, that's the nerds that go to performing arts school to do regular classes. Why?
Yeah. It's hilarious because they're like, you're almost doubling the score that we needed. And the like narration box is just like, has experience passing medical school. He could have gotten anywhere in Japan with that experience. Not necessarily the creds, but definitely the experience.
But yeah, no, this manga likes using the term siscon. I don't think you know what that means. He's overprotective. That's... They also then... There are cases where it's like, they call him a siscon and then they say that he's overprotective. Like, that's 2 different things. And like, yes, he is incredibly overprotective, but...
Look, Jacob, you can get on your soapbox about what a real siscon is on Sisconfidential, but we don't have that podcast yet.
I've made it one step closer to reality. What have I done?
The podcast that will never happen.
Oh, I'd like to hope so. I want to sleep.
I want to stay up all night. I just want to sleep with your sister.
But anyway, acting school, they run into, who else could it be but the one-sided rival Kana.
And then this is our 3rd introduction to Kana, where, I mean, to some extent, I actually kind of feel like this is where she's at her most, like, stable, because she's still confident in herself. Like she seemed actively meek in the interview, whereas she's good at... She can accurately self-reflect that, like, all of the parts I got were... ran dry, and I get it was because of my attitude. I'm going to correct that. I apologize for being weird. We're still totally rivals, though, right? I've quit acting. What do you mean you've quit acting?
She is so distraught. Actually, I'm here for the general course. Why?
the question everyone keeps asking him.
Half a page dedicated to her screaming that question.
We get a whole bunch of the one-sided rival bit that ultimately culminates in Kana wants to work with Aqua again, and he is not receptive until she mentions who the director is.
Yes, because the director is Masaya Kaburagi, who was one of the contacts on the list of the mysterious 3rd phone that required like an entire year
to unlock. I forgot he had the whole unlocking the phone montage, which is
The
one of the rare
very-
that's one of the rare cases where I don't think that the melodrama that was supposed to I think that was supposed to be played straight, and it's one of the few cases where it didn't work because like there are other options, my dude.
The
Oh,
very
Jacob, shut up. I laughed so hard at the fact that they played a full Code Geass moment too. I manually put in every number from like 1 to 45,000 manually with a 30-second stop timer in between each input. It took me months.
months, I tell you. And this phone's got shitty security if it doesn't automatically wipe after that many failed inputs of the passcode. But anyway, for plot reasons, it let him in, and he knows that Kaburagi is on the list of potential contacts of maybe baby daddies.
I love how quickly he turns, and Kana's even like, wait a minute, what do you mean? Why are you suddenly on board with this?
I like her internal reason why, because while he had been having his entire Code Geass moment, she's continuing to ramble on about the production. And how it's
that's right.
It's full of models and hot people, and it's like the lead actor has a girly face, and oh, he got so interested after I said that. Is he into that kind of thing?
She does ask him out loud.
He completely ignores the question.
Look, she does need to double check his interest because we are kind of downplaying the kind of unrequited love angle she immediately had going because she got a little bit of a crush.
She's got a severe case of, oh no, my rival is hot face, which will only be exasperated as they do the rest of this particular plot line, because the production that Kana is a part of, and thus Aqua has been pulled into, is live action adaptation of a manga. I'm having flashbacks.
Next time on No Read November, we're gonna watch. I'll go with Sweet Today or whatever the fuck it's called.
I'm just gonna tell you, if you thought this manga had a nuanced take on the idol industry, it has a much less nuanced take on what it thinks manga adaptations are.
Oh my god, it's great because it's like, it's a 6-episode series. 4 episodes are already out. Let's watch this.
Oh god, it's awful.
I wonder what the person who wrote Kaguya-sama Love is For would know about horribly rushed, overproduced live action versions.
That's an excellent question. One that'll be answered next November on.
Please no. Please no.
Look, Akasaka Sensei, we feel your pain, but come on, you didn't need to dedicate an entire mini arc to this.
But yeah,
To be fair, he does get the itty bittiest bit of nuance in there by being like, okay, in the spirit of utmost fairness, this production is just trying to push hot actors to up there to pad their IMDb pages. Really, if you just get people who care enough, even the shittiest, most cash grabby adaptations can be good, right? Right? Which really feels like we're just giving a drop of water in a desert, but okay.
For all of the lack of subtlety there, it does actually get into some character stuff, and this is where it gets the most explicit on the whole, like, this is the harsh real world of the entertainment industry, where on the film set where they're going to film the scene that Aqua's going to be in, like, Kana even like says, yeah, I know this is bad, but I gotta get every role I can, and I could be performing better.
If I take the weighted training clothes off.
If I make all the other actors look bad, then that's just going to make it worse. So I have to dumb down my performance to their level. And, it's about making connections. It's about making a good product that will, get me more work in the future, showing, a lot of character growth that had been instigated by their prior meeting, has sort of come full circle for her. Unfortunately, one of the things that she it had been sort of like taking solace in is the idea that the producer had specifically picked her because she was a very talented actress.
Well, Aqua is busy doing his his creeper act. I need to get a DNA sample. Thankfully, the producer is a smoker. So if I can get just 3 cigarette butts, that's enough saliva for a DNA sample.
Yeah, but he overhears the producer does not care about the production. It is barely a blip on his radar and exists purely to promote the terrible actors who are more model than actor. This instigates Aqua to basically
take off his weighted training clothes and go all out.
It does actually go into a truth when it comes to acting that, especially when you lately improv a scene, you can really get even, like, you can sink into a role, you can become the character you're portraying. And he's actually able to elevate the scene to, because the thing that keeps getting said about this is that the manga is a masterpiece, but the episodes of the show that had come out thus far were all terrible.
Schlock, yeah.
At that old song and dance.
Oh, and comedically, Aqua has been cast as the stalker who murderously goes after the female main character.
Yeah,
yeah, so do they establish if this manga is based on the murder of their mother that happened 10 years ago?
They never mention anything like that.
But, like, it is weird that it is about a starlet that gets murdered by a fan.
Well, not murdered, because apparently the series doesn't cover the entire series. It's mentioned in passing at the end there. Aqua does lampshade that, which honestly I feel like that's a bit more, like, that even manages to be a bit more of a contrivance than the phone password, quite frankly. But the point is,
him going all out convinces Kana to go all out, and
also the model who didn't care about his performance actually gets
he gets into it.
He gets super into it and full force punches Aqua.
But that's not even, Aqua is amazing because what he does is not only does he lure the other actor into actually caring about the emotions of the scene, he does so while specifically placing himself to block the shot of the other guy so that the camera has to go around to get a better shot that is identical to the manga panel so that Aqua can make sure the fans of the manga will appreciate the framing is the exact same as the titular in the, because this man is the Lelouch of acting.
Yeah, it's
great.
It's Detective Conan by the way of Code Geass. It shouldn't work, but it does.
But with the combined power of their acting chops, they make that final episode and that very important scene into it's a great episode. It doesn't necessarily become a super viral hit, but it does earn a lot of goodwill back for the adaptation, and perhaps more importantly, thematically gets a lot of warms the heart of the mangaka for the adapted series.
Yeah, that's the important bit, because I mentioned that the producer did not care about this production at all, and Aqua never tells Kana, but you kind of get the impression that Kana realizes it by the end. But as she's I
get the feeling that Kana knew it the entire time.
Well, she comes to accept it more as time goes on. But ultimately the mangaka goes up to Kana and earnestly thanks her for taking a mediocre production and making it something that she could be proud of, that was an adaptation of her work, which is another one of those moments where oh man, that's some catharsis.
Plot-wise, the pertinent thing here is that Aqua did get his hands on enough cigarette butts for enough saliva to determine that the producer, Kaburagi, is not his biological father. So he's back at square one with no leads, except Kaburagi is talking with him at the wrap-up party
Yeah, this scene's amazing. Yeah, my producer boy goes up to him and's like, "Hey, you were really hot before, but I'm looking at you. You kind of look a little like I." And he's just like, "Oh yeah, I'm like a super fan of her. Yeah." And he's just like, "Yeah, super fan."
Don't think about the fact that I have the same last name.
Don't think about the fact that I have the same last name or one of the same weird eyes.
I'm just gonna give you some information.
Nobody brings up the weird eyes. What's with that?
I don't think their eyes are actually like that in universe. No one mentions the star eyes. I think it's just like a audience thing. I just love how he then goes, "Yeah, no, I was real cool. I talked to her. I used to be her agent for a few things. I also hooked her up with a meeting place so she could go out and date this guy behind her company's back. I'm never really sure what happened with that. Really, that was also about 14 years ago? How old are you, kid?" Nah, I'm not gonna make any connections. I'm a big movie producer. I don't care.
Really? Who is that guy that I was seeing? Why do you care? I like trivia.
He says that almost exactly.
Be in my dating show and I'll tell you. Okay.
On this shoot of all these models, he decides to take the kid who came out of nowhere on someone else's recommendation to act, and then goes, "Hey, I've got a celebrity dating show coming up." And I'm like, bold of you to assume your internet TV series is the baseline of celebrity to be on a dating show.
Aqua needs that information, so he agrees. Our last two chapters are some setup for future shenanigans. Namely, Kana gets bullied, essentially.
Recruited in air quotes. Bullied is a better way of putting it, yes.
Well, no. She gets gaslit and manipulated and...
By guess who? Aqua, our supervillain, ladies and gentlemen.
One idol does not an idol group make, so we need more cute girls for Strawberry Productions' new idol group so that Ruby's dream can come true. What cute girl freelancers do we know? I know Kana.
Yeah, you can keep telling me the idol plotline is the main point of this manga. I don't believe you, considering it's taken up 2 chapters of the first 20.
Yeah, I don't think I believe it either. We also get introduced to some characters who I'm sure will be important in the future, including a super pop star, your classic golden child in a high school setting, and also Ruby's new friend who is a pinup girl at 14. Okay.
Yeah, here we go again, Japan. Though also, this whole incident makes me wonder if Ruby / Serena had certain
proclivities, yeah.
Which, I mean, I'm on board with it, but
look. Until I'm told otherwise, Ruby / Serena is bi rep because she seems to be equally entranced by the fact that there are a whole bunch of hot guys and hot girls in her class.
Yeah, she just continues to proceed having her almost completely other series that is the idol series played straight. That's a couple of chapters every now and again. Then you have the big plot arcs with Aqua. That's like the main story, and then there's this weird place where they intersect in the middle. It's 2.5 mangas for the price of one, and it really shouldn't work, but somehow it does.
Elaborate that we completely glossed over, and by we I mean the manga glosses over how 14-year-old Aqua got a hold of a DNA test.
Yeah, that's
right.
Not really explained either.
I never thought about that, but you're right. How did he get that?
He's enough of a supervillain, I believe, that he could manage that.
He probably pretended to be freaking 30 or something. I don't know.
But see, that would have been interesting. Why didn't we watch that? Okay. I think that's good, and we can wrap up with some of our discussion questions.
So, starting off, favorite characters. For all the chapters where she was alive, I did really like Ai. She's a very interesting character. I wish that she lived long enough to explore more of that whole idols are built on lies thing. That seemed like it was a very compelling character exploration. And then she fucking died. So, I guess Aqua, because goddamn, he is a fun Lelouch light. He is Diet Lelouch v Britannia. Jake, how about you?
I'm also gonna say Aqua with I as a runner-up, but actually for a different reason in Aqua's case. I do feel like that there was some level of there. You could have had the story be about fun shenanigans with Aqua and Ruby, regrowing up, and then like I being like the emotional center as she, learns to, earnestly love people. But I do think that the fact that got cut short so cruelly and so abruptly is like sort of enhances it all, especially with her last moments being, oh, I do genuinely love my children, I wasn't faking it. That's a very tragic, very powerful moment. But the reason I really like Aqua is because he is, despite how surface level different unnamed Dr. Kun and Aqua are, they really are a very cohesive, consistent character because a lot of their idiosyncrasies come from the same place. As much as we've been laughing and joking about supervillain Aqua, and he is, I want to make that clear, but it is justified his turn to these extremes. Like, it's not good, it's not healthy, it's not like something I'm advocating for him to continue doing, but like there's like the consistent through line. You can see why he makes the decisions. He's very consistent in that sense that there's a through line and a reason for everything he does, and he really is.
He's basically a classic tragedy protagonist.
I just think he's a really interesting and compelling character. Again, I do kind of wonder if some of the idols are sold on lies thing is going to get picked up by Ruby, which, given the direction that Aqua's story is going and the direction that Ruby's story could potentially go, again, really concerned about the direction. Not concerned in the sense of it going bad, but like concerned for the character's well-being, concerned about where the story is going, because it could very easily get very, very, very dark. It's already gotten dark as it is.
Oh yeah. And how about you, Matt?
I would have to go with, I really like Director. He's cool. He keeps Aqua in check. He's got a lot of fun interactions. He has all the like cynical takes on the, hey, it's just business, kid, entertainment industry nonsense. That's really cool. If I had to pick a runner-up, I'd go with Crazed Knife Fan, because he's cool. He's got a lot of unhinged rants. I'm waiting to see what magic nonsense he's got going on, because we kind of skimmed over it. But there's a whole thing about how Dr. Kuhn's body never was found.
Right.
And they play that up like it's supposed to be a mystery and then kind of do nothing with it. So maybe.
I'm really curious about that too. And honestly, over under on I and or Knife Kun getting reincarnated and being reintroduced as characters?
I don't know. Like,
I feel like if that happened, it would be and it would be at the end of the series.
Here's my thing that I kind of mentioned. We'll come back to this later at the very beginning. I don't know how much the isekai nonsense in this matters.
Right.
Like, the fact he's a doctor doesn't, it really just explains why he's a genius 14-year-old, but yeah, you don't need that justification. 14-year-olds can just be geniuses in manga. Like,
one of the biggest things that the whole reincarnation idea does, like the stuff with, Ruby not being, in her previous life, not being able to move, and now she can. It's hard to know if that's going to come up and be relevant, or if it's just like this parallel plot element that the manga is working with.
Yeah, and like, when I first attempted to read this, I got to the babies. I got to like the second bit of them just being genius babies, and I'm like, I really have no interest in this because I'm a known not fan of isekai nonsense. And then the manga basically just pretended it was an isekai for a bit and then didn't. And I'm like, cool, I'm happy for that. But that's the entire first volume of this is, here's some isekai nonsense. We're going to have fun with mom, and it's going to be a, oh man, baby's a genius, but he's really a 40-year-old man. And then mom gets murdered, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I guess we're going to have babies solving murders. Nope, they're 14 now.
So the 14-year-olds are gonna solve murders. Okay, cool.
But like all their character motivations are from stuff they experienced as children, not as their previous lives. So it's like,
It's not strictly speaking necessary. Yeah.
why was magic involved? Like that's my thing always going in. Like, why do you throw magic into a story? Because that opens up a lot of questions. But like this, here's the thing: this manga has a lot of like interesting intrigue on its own. It didn't need that. It didn't need that extra hook. And when you have that extra hook and you don't seem to want to do anything with it, it leads me to go like, well, then did someone tell you to write an isekai story? And you're like, well, this is technically an isekai, but it's also just murder mystery about the idol industry. And I'm like, okay.
So you think the supernatural element muddles it a bit?
And if I were to take a bet, I'm wondering if they just might only pay lip service to the supernatural element going forward. Because it seems like end of 20 chapters, you would have brought it up again if it mattered. But like it really only came up for Ruby's story. And the problem is Ruby's story, that kind of was completed. Like she gets over her like dance thing.
Yeah, I don't know how they could use that again.
And now it's just her ambition to become an idol.
Which is motivation based off of her reincarnated life. Yeah, I mean, there is a part of me that kind of wonders if they're just never going to address the reincarnation element again. I'll tell you what, the character work done in this manga has sold me on it. I'm willing to trust they're going somewhere with at least enough of this to like keep it at this like steady pace of quality. It is weird, and like you do kind of have to buy into that weird and just sort of accept it and roll with the punches. It's one of those cases where like this is the rare sort of series where there's like that whole, I know it's like a 3-episode rule for anime. I don't know if there's a manga equivalent of that, but like this is one of those rare series that sort of defies that because again, it doesn't really start the plot until chapter 10. Like,
yeah.
So volume 2.
It's very strange. I don't necessarily see that as a de facto negative, but if someone wasn't about this series because of that, I would totally understand that.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame someone for being off put by that. So basically what I'm saying is I don't blame past Matt.
Yeah, for quitting the series. Yeah, I probably would have done the same.
Theories on the plot. Well, I guess we kind of dovetailed into that with Matt's discussion of the isekai nonsense bet. I gotta say, my primary theory was maybe shattered because I was wholly convinced that Hoodie Knife Man was the father.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too. There is some implication of that, which sort of makes me wonder about all of this.
And then the manga then goes out of the way to say, no, he actually wasn't the father. You've been red herringed. We now need to hunt for the actual father, who is the real killer.
Well, that's the thing. Aqua never really considers the idea that Hoodie Man might be their father. He doesn't really like entertain that idea. And the manga, it at first
the incel rant kind of precludes it, but
yeah. I mean, yeah, the way she answers the door is not, I was expecting to see your father. Like, he was there seeing I interact with him. It was very clear he was not the father from that scene. The manga does, before that, lead you to believe it might be him, but like, I don't think Aqua has any reason to ever think that.
I could see a twist of him being more deeply tied into this than just him being an incel stalker that was used by their father for these purposes.
Look, if this manga weren't so everyone's incredibly beautiful all the time, I would have assumed this guy was a time traveler because he looks identical 10 years later.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's not 10 years later. The kids are 3.
So it is like only 3 years later. So
I looks identical 3 years later. So I actually don't know.
Honestly, him being a time traveler would not be that strange for the series. It's have we mentioned it's very weird?
But anyway, as for actual theories on how the plot is going, I don't think I have enough suspects to be able to say who the actual father is.
I was about to say we've got nothing to go on.
Yeah, we haven't been given a list other than the broad strokes of like what's the motivation for killing Ai?
Well, it's clearly someone who stands to lose more by having it revealed that he had illegitimate children with an idol who was very underage. So I'm thinking like producer, like
Yeah.
big name producer who's just like, oh, I got a 16-year-old girl. She
Yeah.
was 16 when
16,
she
yeah.
had the kids. Yeah. Yeah. I got a 16-year-old girl pregnant. Like, ugh, not great.
Need to nip this one in the bud.
There is also like the weird element of like why kill the doctor though? Like what purpose does that serve?
Yeah, but then he just kills Ai when she tries to like I don't That's what I'm saying. I can't guess at the plot because all the manga has done so far is like sown intrigue. They haven't really given you any concrete to like theory craft off of. Like anything you say is a shot in the dark. It's like, oh, is it the billionaire who runs the idol industry? Like it could be anyone. Like
Well, since we're kind of stumped on theories, unless you had anything, Jake.
No, I'm sort of in the same boat.
All right, so let's go to our final discussion question here. Thoughts on the manga's interpretation of the entertainment industry? Maybe this is just a personal bias from having worked in it a bit in entertainment, and even then, in a very small corner of it.
for everyone who doesn't know, Sam used to work in personally recruiting girls into the underground idol industry.
Local radio.
That's what we call it.
Having worked in local radio, I think the one thing this manga got that I really resonated with in that regard was all of this is so much more chaotic and slapdash than anyone wants you to think it is. It is everyone working with like dozens of schedules and dozens of hundreds of factors, all just desperately trying to get everyone in the same place at the same time long enough to make enough product to edit down into something that can go out. And the live action adaptation, like, yeah, they were making a point of saying that it was a shoestring budget production designed to push models' faces and little else, but it did a good job of showing how any production can just be this absolute shit show of a mess on the back end. And I think it's good to kind of show how the sausage is made in that regard. Also, the inherently exploitative nature of a lot of this. Very good to show how the sausage is made there so that you can make more informed decisions about how you consume media and potentially change the way things are done by voting with your wallet. I've been boycotting Blizzard for 3 years. So, thoughts from you guys?
The thing that I sort of took away from its so like there are two big elements. One of the things that was sort of the reason why I got into the whole does this series hate the idol industry? Like, is this an idol series that hates the idol industry? Was that idea of it's like the that fostering of a very toxic parasocial bond, which again is kind of why I wish they doubled down on the not like I kind of wish he just said, no, I would not say yes to a date with Ai. That's weird and creepy, because I feel like it would have pushed that theme through a little bit stronger. But the other thing that I think is a sort of important point is that idea of if you're in the entertainment industry and the thing you make doesn't matter how good the thing is, if it doesn't sell, it basically doesn't mean anything. I mean, like there is this element of the sort of like cutthroat, if you're not number one in the ratings, you don't count sort of thing that kind of frustrates me with a lot of media and how it's like reacted to. Like, media can like find its niche and be happy with that, but like there is that sort of, you got to make something that like appeals to enough people to make your money back and then some. I sort of like particularly appreciate like Kana's like contribution to the story in that sense of that she recognizes, I want to make something that I'm proud of and I'm going to do the best I can, but I'm also not going to rock the boat and like damage the production overall to satisfy my own ego. I've made that mistake before. and I think that's sort of something important to like understand like about the entertainment industry. I mean, it's a product that gets sold, and that's going to influence how it's made, what gets made, and how it's like distributed and things like that.
Well said, Jacob. And a perfect transition into, if you like hearing us talk and want to see us as number one on the podcast rating boards, you can do so by following us at OverMangaCast on Twitter. And I won't rest until we have beaten out every other animation and manga podcast that exists. I'm looking at you, Manga Mavericks. I'm looking at you at Trash Manga Friends.
Yes, Over MangaCast, number one in the Philippines and soon to be everywhere else. So,
and hey, if you want to contact us and send us even more recommendations, so you can say that you recommended stuff to us back before we were number one, you can email us overmangacast@gmail.com, on overmangacast.com, where you can catch up on all our episodes. You can leave comments on episodes there as well.
Indeed.
And as always, 'tis the Christmas season, so feel free to go ahead and, I'll say it this time, drop us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or really any podcast rating site. We really appreciate it. Sam, did you hear sleigh bells as this wonderful Christmas season approaches?
Sleigh bells ring ting tingling jing jing jingling too. Yes. It is, in fact, the Crimbus season, and that means we need to read our Crimbus manga, or comic, with, we're going back to it, Klaus! The New Adventures of Santa Claus.
Yep, back to the adventures of Jacked Santa. Can't wait.
It's the only Santa I want in my house.
Me too. Tune in next week for that. Ho, 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 and good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
I don't have a bit.
Okay. And that's the bit.
Good night, everybody.